Here, our speakers empowering their co-youths with their podcast on no poverty. Salubong.
Eto na ang Salubong. Hi everyone, this is your podcast host. I am Roy, and of course, I would like to introduce to you guys to our first episode of our Eto na ang Salubong, a podcast regarding the SDG number 1, no poverty. And I would like to introduce to you guys to my dear co-host.
Hi there, I'm Jaira, and I'll be your co-host for today.
Of course, of course. We cannot just put them into our seats without me introducing or without themselves introducing themselves. And here with me are my speakers.
Hi everyone, my name is Jazz.
Hello, I'm Jihad.
And I'm Lee, Dr. Roy.
Okay, thank you guys. More so, we can be able to think of our podcast as the one as to which we can be able to really be a youth advocate towards those who are of oppressed, those who are of marginalized communities, and those who do not really have privileges onto their lives. Knowing that our status quo really would reiterate that there are a lot of, or like there are increasing cases when it comes to poverty. But this also means that we can have this kind of infinite responsibility towards them. And this leaves me with myself, asking you guys questions that would first go by, what do you think is the current state of marginalized communities in the contemporary days?
Roy, I would like to answer this one.
Okay.
Up until now, there's a lot of people experiencing poverty. This is one of a main problem in our country, especially increasing of prices, lack of salaries, and inflation. Especially in the pandemic, there's a lot of people that loses their job and experiencing this crisis.
I would like to add something to that, right? Rather than something I thought of, it is something I have seen firsthand and heard from people under the line of poverty. According to them, they have a really hard time budgeting their finance that they receive as help from the government. And I truly felt their hardship as I've seen the state of their living conditions.
Right. So upon making our documentary for Peace for Ease, I've really had this kind of awakening onto them. Because not just that we are full of so much privileges onto life, more so of that we are blessed enough to have our inclusions onto us. Thus, this would lead on to our point about asking you guys that are those families living below the poverty line able to get sufficient help in order to aid their day-to-day needs coming from the government?
So Roy, I would like to answer that question.
Okay.
Well, based on our MIL research and from the people themselves that we've interviewed for the 40s, I could really say that the government does not give, or I could say that the government doesn't give enough money, but it also falls onto the responsibility of people wherein they have to budget the money properly. So, to sum it up, or like to basically say that the government still not only needs to give money, but they also need to educate the people on how to budget the money so that it won't go to waste or it could actually benefit them.
Riyad, regarding the question, may you repeat it? I could not hear it.
Okay. So, are those families living below the poverty line able to get sufficient help coming from the government in order to aid their day-to-day needs?
It aligns with what I've said earlier. They said that their finance, it was hard for them to budget their finance before the next arrival of money they receive from the government.
Yes, that's true. So, moving on, I am really satisfied with how you guys been able to answer those questions. So, as is, from your personal experiences and also perspectives into life, going into the areas which we perhaps call the poverty zone, or what the layman's terminology would go, or those living in the slum areas and coastal areas crawling in the hardships of life. So, what are your prior experiences?
I would like to answer the question, Roy, because some of my experiences during the interview, we interview some people there in the slum and coastal areas. Some of my experience were I saw kids playing with no slippers and not really wearing decent clothes. I can really feel that the people there are struggling with their they have financial problems, and my experience was really memorable for me. I can say that it's not easy, it's not that easy to live like that in that kind of situation.
Okay, so that's a really good perspective, Chance. As is, I would also like to share my experience as an individual who is living in the slum area. So currently, we are really viewed of prejudices. We are really viewed of stereotypes. If you're not those of people who do not have any achievements in life, so as is, they will only recognize you if you do have achievements in life. As is, if you're a professional living in the slum area. And this leads with my question. Stereotypes at most occur in the modern era, especially to those people who are not as privileged as we are. So how can we able to clash and battle this out?
I would like to answer that, Roy.
Okay.
So yes, I agree that stereotypes is very evident, and you can actually see it not only within the unprivileged and with the sector of people that we deal with, but it's also evident in our peers. So going back, for stereotyping, we can see that how people stereotype the poor or the people within the slums. They stereotype them as being dirty, uneducated, being unhygienic and such, and that there's a problem with that stereotyping. And I think that problem would not help the poor people at all. Not only it would affect them, their mentality, but it also affects their progress or their progressive growth, wherein they want to improve, and instead of progressively getting better, or what do you call this, getting out from the state of poverty, their stereotyping is actually pulling them down instead. So I say that stereotyping should be abolished, or at least we should go against stereotyping these people in a way that we should we should deal with the root cause, and the root cause of this would be the mentality of people, in which is people are very quick to judge and analyze and understand that if they see a certain action, or if they understand that this person, example, this person, they do this, a poor person looks like this, then they'll assume that, oh, this person, or all of the poor people act like this, they look like this and such.
I agree. So I really have to agree with that one. More so as a student activist myself, there is so much that we can do. There is so much that we are about to progress in the prevailing times. Because it is our duty and responsibility as citizens as well, that we do not opt to really see how societal status would go, but more so of how we can be able to have this kind of unison ideology and mindset onto us, that it is really our duty towards them as privileged to be able to lend our help towards them in order to reciprocate and have this kind of perpetuity when it comes to our lives as well. So that moves on to our next question. Is it really right to say that we are progressive as a country while seeing that there are a lot of poor families rallying over their war cries in order for the government to scream their screams of help?
I would like to share my opinion regarding this, Rhea.
Yes.
To say that we are progressive, our country is progressive, while many people are, or rather, a sizable portion of our population remains under the line of poverty, is inaccurate. This is as the Philippines is currently considered a developing country, falling between the third and second world country. To even be considered a part of a first world country, or rather one of them, one of the things that people must they first consider is having low poverty rate, having a variety of industrialized.
Okay. So more so that there are a lot of evaluations that needs to have this kind of level of progress, and it is really crucial to take the general well-being of the populace when it comes to having this kind of mindset onto labeling our country as progressive. It might be that we are economically developed rather, but as is, we are still afar from being humanitarian when it comes to our actions. It might be that there are these little ways that we could improve and we can be able to lend them. However, as what I said earlier, there's so much that we can do. But having this kind of thinking that we should be advocates should not only rely on to us being advocates verbally, but more so walking our talk. That makes a really resonated and amplified lesson or like motto or saying that walking our talks would really have this kind of realism onto our advocacies and being able to really implement what more so of we would like to urge the government to be able to also lend amplification onto those who are of marginalized sectors. So moving on, as I've said, we as youths, as we are really visionary. So how can we advocate for them? As the saying would go, young leaders are visionary.
Though this is not something I am currently experienced with, so I cannot really give you many things regarding that. One of the few things I can say is, one of the things we can do is to educate ourselves and others. This is to raise awareness, and as knowing the roots of our problems, the root of poverty, may enlighten us with a way to help, to give our aid to those people in the marginalized marginalized community. Another way is we may
Okay, so more so that social media really plays a general scope and a general role in order to improve and develop our ideologies, our goals in life, and also what we would want to achieve in order for peace and tranquility to be able to be obtained in the contemporary times, even more so that the world is really chaotic and we cannot really deny it, right?
Yes.
We can't really deny that there are chaos everywhere, there are conflicts that we need to deal of everywhere, but more so that it is not of toxic positivism that we should go, but more so of facing what the status quo really is. So that leads on to my next point, that as those who are of voices, and we do have our human rights as well, how can we use this kind of voice and stances to cumulatively seek for the help of the higher branches of the government? And that's our goal. Especially that we have recently celebrated the hashtag Mayo 1 2023, whereas the people who are experiencing, or those who are of labor or labor sectors, the laborers have always been rallying all about, which is the presyo ibaba, sahod itaas. So what are your thoughts regarding?
I would like to share my opinion on that, right?
Yes.
Well, as youth, as activists, and as students, we have the voice, and we have the ability to say what we want to say, our stance, and unique ways, or like ways that would be effective for the government to hear us, that we could voice out our opinions about it, would be advocacies, basically. We can see right now, as an example of an advocacy, is our podcast, right? We can talk about, we can share about our different opinions, our views, and what do you want to advocate for in this podcast. Another example would be like simple video, but video advocacies, like what we have done with our MIL research, which the video shows about the different interviews, points, and understanding on what we have with the marginalized people, and our understanding on how the 4Ps have affected these people as well. And seeing that the recent hashtag, or about the Labor Day that has recently happened, we could truly say that it is effective and it could be useful, and it is possible that we, as students, as activists, as young as we are, that are taking a stance and doing these advocacies and such, would be effective, since we can already see the effect, or like we can see other people doing it as well.
Yeah. So this is more so of an occurrence of a metamorphosis when it comes to our society as well. That especially with the recently, you said, recently concluded, not concluded, but more so of us being able to have this kind of perpetuity onto the hashtag Mayo Uno, which is a rally that talks all about the sahod itaas, presyo ibaba. It really is a resounding voice. It's because laborers are of those sectors who really are the ones who are pounded with so much burdensome. They are able to sacrifice their blood, sweat, and tears, and also their time, their golden and precious time towards their families. They are able to sacrifice it just because for them to be able to be sustained enough and to be able to attain a wage, but that kind of wage should be able to sustain their families from day-to-day living. Imagine, even ourselves as well, we do have a lot of primary needs. We also have our tertiary needs, and we also have what we call our wants. But more so if we only focus onto our primary needs and tertiary needs, and as for the point of view of the laborers, still, their money is not enough. By this means that inflation rate also increases over time. So the prices of the goods, even in the wet markets, we go to what we call as palengke, we refer us to, buy cheaper products, cheaper raw materials in order for us to be able to cook in our day-to-day lives, and the hopes of us being able to, buy at the cheaper stands. But more so, we're seeing prices, even in the fish prices, in the meat section, even in the vegetable section, that it really is increasing over time. And it is a warning for us, and it's a siren of alarm that our voices can be able to really amplified or be amplified more so as youth and advocates as well. So that leads up onto our generalization that there is a dynamic change in our environment. So how can we help them by saying them? These are people who are of those marginalized communities in our smallest ways possible as visionaries of hope and faith.
For me, I can help them by spreading awareness through social medias. Also by giving donations, which we are very blessed with what we have. So what if we just share what we have to them?
Yes.
So for me, I guess I can help in giving some donations, spreading awareness, and encouraging them to just to go on with their lives. Because someday they will be in the top. Just believe in themselves.
Okay, that's true. That's actually faith and solidarity. So as is, we are really having this kind of stronger piece building onto us. And even us, as young as we are about to have this kind of face onto us now. We are more so of a one-in-kind, what they call this one-in-kind community onto us. Whereas what we do should always benefit the others. So we always have this kind of conscience upon knowing that we already have this kind of perpetuating ideology that we should always do what is correct and neglect what is wrong. That as a reflection onto us that helping others and not being able to expect something in return or like a blessing onto you. Just more so of you being wholeheartedly giving or like you have the inner will to really help them out is a complete version of attainment onto yourself. And by this means that you guys should always be youths and advocates. Use your voice as well, amplify what your ideologies are, use this in order for you guys to be able to have this kind of web chain in our society to influence those who are not more so of knowledge, not more so of an awakening onto the societal status, and not more so of a much more wide scope when it comes to their dissemination of information. As is, we say goodbye to you guys, and we hereby conclude the first episode of our Ito Na Ang Salubong, a podcast regarding the SDG number 1, no poverty. Bye guys!
Bye.